Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 3 of our very, very cool podcast. Again, I'm here with the one and only Ian Parks. And today we have a very, very cool topic that we're going to go through. So in last week's episode, we talked about the importance of providing a pristine internal and external experience in order to allow your business to flourish, right? And those relationships to flourish. And we were thinking through this, and by this time last year, so like around Q1 of last year, a lot of businesses were starting to talk about AI, right? And ways how we could just improve the efficiency of businesses and also the experience with clients using artificial intelligence. And then 2023 sort of took us through a wild ride of businesses implementing AI for the business. And now 2024 comes around, and it's a standard. Like, you cannot run a business without AI, basically. But that sort of bodes the question, how can you continue automating some processes using AI now, but still just sound like a human being? Strive to understand your client, strive to have that like personal touch to businesses. Ian, what do you think about that?
I think it's still something of the giant playground at the moment. I think everyone's of that mindset that yes, there are things that we can leverage with AI that fundamentally make a difference to the business. I think there has been that progression over the last 12 months has been, thinking about AI, trying AI out, seeing what's worked, seeing what's not worked. And I think the biggest part of it for me is like, what are those commoditized areas that actually AI just has a material benefit on that, may take people hours of work to kind of get to the the holy grail of what they're looking for, but to do it in a way that doesn't abandon the kind of principles of the brand and the principles of being people in business. And I think for me, there are a couple of areas that, I think AI has been, very powerful in is, a lot of the research. It's for me, a lot of the stuff that's in the kind of the background that, enables you to be better when you're out front with the people that you want to connect with. And again, have we understood like exactly what that means and like exactly like the right way to do that? Absolutely not. It's that rapid test element and see what works for us and see what doesn't. But yeah, I think from my perspective, it's behind the scenes that it has the most impact, so that you don't have to kind of forgive everything or give anything up on that front end experience. And I think it's one of the things that perhaps it's easier to talk about the potential pitfalls of AI, and like what hasn't worked, and and really kind of focusing on that. And I think, I mean, what's your take on where it's kind of perhaps being a bad thing, or where companies are being too reliant on automation? Like what do you think the pitfalls around being too reliant on it are?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it definitely affects the experience. I mean, I'll give you an example. We all get blasted with calls and emails, and before, um, I've been in the sales seat for pretty much my entire career. So I empathize with people when they call me on my phone, and I try to answer uh, as many calls as I can. But now, if you notice, most of those calls are from just machines, and the humanoid, and to go on a tangent, the humanoid experiments and research freak me the hell out. And now I have this rule that if it's a human, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to have a conversation, right? But if it's a robot, I'm not.
Yeah.
I hate the hello. This is blank. Is this Mauricio? It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Um, I think that is the biggest pitfall. I think that AI is amazing to help businesses sort of feel like an octopus, that you can do like more with less, and then you can sort of like clone yourself a couple of times and try to be as efficient as you can with your day.
Yeah.
But when that starts to affect experiences, and that starts to make people feel, make prospects and make clients feel that they're secondhand, that they're not important enough to to have a human interact with them, I think that is the biggest pitfall. And um, if you just skew it, and that spectrum is, if you skew it too hard and too far down the AI route, I think that that is what you you start losing. Because I mean, to go on another tangent, this thing is amazing, but look at what happens when people go to restaurants, or when people just like that personal interaction. We've lost that interaction. Like,
Yeah.
people stop writing, right? Because everybody's typing. So I think that technology and artificial intelligence are great, but once it comes uh, and it divides, and it sort of like eliminates that human interaction, I think that is the one of the pitfalls, and I guess the worst for me. So how a question for you: how have we been able to balance this automation component that, again, is very, very important, it's crucial for a business, with the personalized customer experience here at Stockpress?
Yeah, I think like I say, I think it's still very much a work in progress. I think, the shape of communication overall is changing, and I think that's probably the biggest part of what we're trying to understand, around AI and automation at the moment is I'm a firm believer that actually we've probably come a bit full circle on a sales perspective right now. I think we've been through so much mass automation that people are craving, kind of an old school traditional approach where actually, it is about conversations, it is about building relationships. It's probably about having fewer conversations, but having more meaningful conversations with those people that, we genuinely believe that we can go out and solve for. So, I think automation for me has been about, well, actually, how can we narrow maybe our sphere of influence down to those people that we can truly start to see these signals around how we can be impactful with them, rather than use it for getting to those people in the first place. So, I think the automation side of things for me is about, well, how can we watch what people are doing in terms of like platform experience, things like that, so that we can make sure we're helping them at the right point in time. But it's
Mhm.
certainly, for me, it's not about using it to be the starter of a conversation, or because I think for me, in many respects, it's like, if that's how little we kind of respect the conversation going into it, then it's probably not going to end very well. So, like I say, for me, it's like we've used it to help us kind of identify those people we think are the right people to speak to. I think near bounding is one where it's going to be incredibly important to be able to kind of pick up on those conversations so that we become a part of those conversations. But like I say, it's to inform us. And then on the back end, it's about us then being able to kind of take that intelligence into that initial conversation. I think that's where the kind of power lies. And I think, that customer service or that customer experience, probably more relevant to say, I think is the big part of this. Like, what have you seen over time around like how automation's kind of enabled us to improve that customer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you say, I think it's gold. I was thinking through. It's like when you started to go on dates with people, uh, you didn't send a robot to have like that first interaction. I think here is the I guess the same concept. Um, I think that, and I'm just speaking about like my personal experience, regardless if you're a large team, or a small team, it will always feel as if you're doing too much and that you need to do more with less. So the way that automation has helped me and AI has helped me is try to help me understand and pick those like focus areas, and get me those alerts of like how people have been interacting and are interacting. Like, for example, hey, this person has been doing XYZ action for Y time. They might have a question. They might want to speak to somebody, right? Or hey, this person hasn't been active in a while, but they were active before. Like perhaps like pinging them for a conversation would be helpful. So I think that all of that like intent data is incredibly important. But once you go to spark that like to move forward with trying to spark a conversation, just coming from a human is incredibly helpful. Um, and now like with TikTok and with all these platforms, like even Instagram has changed over the past couple of years. Like video is incredibly important. Like with emails, like you kind of got to say it's like, hey, I'm a human, right? Um, but now with video, I think we can put a a name, or excuse me, a face to the name, a voice to the name, and you can actually validate that
Yeah.
you're a human being. And I think that that is a very empathetic and a great way to interact with your prospects, with your clients. So what role do you feel that empathy plays in, managing these client relationships, and how can businesses cultivate um, this human side empathetic component with still the automation
Yeah.
component, to be able to thrive?
I can try and keep this one relatively brief, I think. So, I think as humans, what's kind of sets us apart in many respects is that ability to have like logic and reason, and
Mm.
know that actually, the impact of doing something based on logic and reason means that you can judge whether it's the right thing to do or not. And, I think that's the big thing for us is you can use a lot of this information that you can get through, AI. You can get rid of, some processes that probably took a bit of time before. But, I think the key really is, are you using that time then to be that human part of the machine? Are you using that information and time to be logical, to be reasoned, and to say, well, actually, I understand now the person at the other end of this, hopefully this interaction that we're about to have. And I can go in there equipped with all of this incredible insight that otherwise perhaps we wouldn't have been able to get. So, like I say, it's just part of the machine. And I think the empathetic element of this is to be able to separate yourself from the machine into that human conversation that you're about to have, and be able to make it better interaction. So, I think that's where I like to think that we're doing things with StockPress is, yeah, just becoming the kind of the thought leaders in our space, because we're really kind of using all the information to hand, but knowing that it's people that this is all built around. And, I think this is probably going to be the interesting conversation for kind of when we get together next time, is it is about, what does that actually mean for the experience? Like how do you synthesize all this information, whether it's about a singular customer, whether it's about an ICP, or whether it's like an industry as a whole? Like, what are the sources of information that are available to us? How do we use it? And actually, what does that mean for that interaction that we're about to have? So again, like, I know we always try and follow some sort of thread through these conversations, but it feels like maybe the next conversation we could have is around information, synthesizing that information and turning it into that human experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be an amazing segue to this conversation. Amazing way to close this out. Be the human part of the machine. I love that. I absolutely love that. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you next time. Again, if you have any questions, or if you have any ideas, or any suggestions of topics that we should talk about, leave them in the comments. See you next time. Bye.
Take care.